All right, welcome to the College Game Day pod for Monday, November 3rd. I'm Dan Wetzel in for Reese Davis today. Pete Thamel is here. Quick reminder, please download the podcast wherever you prefer you get your podcasts, or better yet, subscribe so you never miss a single episode. Pete, it's ranking season. Tuesday night on ESPN, the first college football playoff ranking is out. And, you know, my general feeling about these rankings, great show we got. Please tune into the ESPN and the family of networks, but not a big
Reese Davis has done every one of those shows since like 2014.
I bet.
That's like a remarkable Iron Man streak. So
he's good at it too.
Of committee chairs not answering his questions.
Trying to get everybody to, trying to get the committee chair to answer why something that you said the opposite last week. That's why I love the show's great. I just think as a sport, this is not a great idea because they box themselves in. I'm sure we'll get to all that. I think that's why Alabama got left out last year. But they'd rather like create a 30-team playoff than just get rid of the weekly rankings. But for content vultures like us, Pete, it's great. And here's my question I have for you. Who's going to be number one? Okay, we got Ohio State. Eye test beyond belief. They have wins against Texas, at Washington, at Illinois. Indiana looks great. Eye test. Maybe the best win at Oregon. Also a win at Iowa. Blowout win at Illinois, against Illinois. And then there's Texas A&M, unbeaten, with wins at Notre Dame and at LSU. Who's number one tomorrow night?
If any of the three ended up number one, I would not be surprised, and I think they have a strong case. My lean would be Ohio State on performance. I think Indiana, with that win at Oregon and then just the tenor of some of their performances, might have a little bit of a better case. I think it's very fair. And then look, Texas A&M is the class of the SEC, and the SEC top to bottom is the best league in college football. As it's been many years, not all, but many of them. So I think for content purposes, Dan, this is a really good debate. The interesting thing about Ohio State is they don't have the eye-popping numbers. They are the slowest team in college football, like the way they snap the ball and move. And as college football becomes more like the NFL, there's more parity. Look at the teams projected to be in this playoff. Texas Tech, Ole Miss, BYU, Virginia, Memphis. There's obviously always one group of five team. Indiana. I mean, freaking Indiana, Dan. It's still not like normalized yet. After a century of bad football. So, playing like the NFL to win games actually makes a lot more sense, right? Not running your quarterback, not running tempo, limiting snaps, surviving the season. I think Ohio State's done an excellent job doing that, and it helps when you might have the two best receivers in the country. So, but I mean, all credit to Indiana, man. The way they went and won at Oregon, what they did to Illinois, in the win at Iowa. There's no like bad wins at Iowa. It's a difficult place to play. Iowa itself could earn its way into that conversation here this week with the Ducks coming to town. I would not be surprised if that's a 3-point game in the middle of the fourth quarter, right? As we go. So, who do you think, Dan?
I think I got to go with Ohio State with a little bit of so this is the problem with these rankings at this point. Am I giving a nod because they're the reigning national champions? Yeah, maybe. Should I? No. I mean, last year has nothing to do with this year. I think it's the pure talent that I believe in. Again, this is the speculative part. I guess Indiana on paper, but I know what Jeremiah Smith is. I know what Carnell Tate is. I know what Averill Reese is, Caleb Downs. Julian Sayin is completing 80% of his passes. 10.0 yards per attempt, 23 touchdowns. Like, this team is just looks unstoppable, and so does an Indiana, but I don't know. So maybe that's the problem I have. And I always love the 1-2 debate because the second team gets really angry with you. and I mean, it doesn't matter. They're on a collision course for Indianapolis, and even that game won't matter. Yeah. So whatever. This is the problem. I think I would give the edge slightly to Ohio State. They are huddling on offense this year. They are slow. Don't need to be fast when you got that much talent, and you make sure Sayan's feeling. I mean, it's working. So got all of that. Indiana, more of like a, they have more, like they have Cooper and Surratt at wide receiver. It's a little more by committee. Mendoza's been great. I don't know. I think those are the two. You go either way. I think the bold move would say Indiana, just give them the one. I mean, Ohio State goes number one. It's like, okay, another week at number one. Indiana goes number one, and it's incredible. And I just think Texas A&M doesn't quite have that resume after that. So I guess I would go Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, but I'm rooting for Indiana to get it, I guess. Really interesting. These two clearly look like the best. They haven't had a ton of tests, but we'll see. What's the one thing you're going to be looking for? I mean, look, everything's going to change. I mean, it'll be like BYU and Texas Tech. One will be, maybe 1-7, 1-8 this weekend or something like that. Or I don't know where they're going to be, but they'll play Saturday. So, it doesn't really matter. But what in terms of how this playoff might look at the end, or what matters at the end, what are you looking for on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I think I guess I'll answer that with one breadcrumb that'll lead to two big things that I care about a lot in these rankings, Dan. One is, will the Big 12 or the ACC get two teams? So where is Virginia to start, and then where is Miami and Georgia Tech to start? They would obviously have some work to do to get back in. The AP has Virginia around 12. If we see Virginia at 17 or whatever in this, that's going to spell some problems for the ACC as they go. And then I'll be very curious where Texas Tech and BYU are. They're 8 and 9 in the AP poll right now. It's going to come down to record strength, right? Is that the new metric we spent all offseason talking about? BYU is undefeated, but they might not have the most record strength. Texas Tech is 8-1. They're clearly an excellent football team. They have 1 4-point road loss. They have a great win at Utah. They don't have much on their resume out of conference. How does the committee see those leagues? Because I think a lot of these offseason adjustments conversations about this, the eternal tinkering of the formula, which has been like a 20-year tradition, right? This happened. Oh, we need to do this. This happened. We need to do this. Is now like, how do we gauge these records, right? And we'll get the first outlay of that, and I think those are the two factors that I'm going to dial in on the most.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they have Notre Dame. Notre Dame is
great point.
We knew that after 2 weeks. This is going to be one of the more interesting cases, because their strength is generally their two losses. Lost to one to Texas A&M. They lost a really good game down at Miami. Now Miami is fading, but that's kind of what makes it interesting. They also have a victory against USC, a pretty impressive one, and USC is making a rebound here. Miami has 2 losses, and so if they win out but don't make the ACC title game, could there be a head-to-head where you're looking at Notre Dame versus Miami?
Yeah.
And at what point does Miami have to have that? They would have a better resume.
Great point.
So much hinges on Notre Dame. If Notre Dame's not in, that opens up another spot potentially for the Big Ten or these other leagues. But then USC might be that 4th team in the Big Ten. Well, Notre Dame beat them. So Notre Dame's kind of hinges on a lot of spots. And I'm in, where do you have them? Where do they rank, and what are the chances of the Irish? So they have a clear path to get into this playoff. I think Notre Dame is good enough to make another run to the title game. I just don't know if they'll have the resume if they get stacked up in the wrong head-to-head matchup for one of these final spots.
Yeah, CJ Carr, who he is as a quarterback now compared to where he was in Miami Gardens that opening night, is drastically different player. I mean, he's really developed into. I think he's fourth in the nation in QBR. I mean, he's been an unbelievable revelation, and great job identifying and recruiting him, getting him there early, developing, and then believing in him, not bringing in like some senior. That's hard now in modern college football to say, hey, we're rolling with the young guy. Like that is not an easy thing to do. So I give Marcus Freeman a lot of credit for that. And I agree. A lot hinges on Notre Dame. They only really have one statement game left, Dan, and that's obviously against Pitt on the road.
So to me, the interesting part is, what are the breakdowns of the conferences, and what are the chances that the ACC and the Big 12 could get more than one bid? Mm-hmm. And how much was that hurt with for the ACC by Miami losing on Saturday to SMU? Very disappointing loss for the Canes. We can maybe talk about that more in depth as what it means to the Canes later. But is there a path that Georgia Tech lost also? Is there a way to get two in? Do you think if Virginia plays Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game, the loser would still get in? Is there enough respect there? Does Georgia Tech have to beat Georgia? What are your thoughts ACC wise of getting a second bid?
Yeah, so I think Miami can do it. I think with where they'll be tonight, let's just say probably somewhere in the high teens, right? In the 16, 17, 18 range, somewhere in that neighborhood. And the thing that's really helping Notre Dame and Miami this year is the fact that Pitt is really good. They might not be ranked, but Pitt is like a formidable, respected opponent. And I believe both of them Miami and Pitt have to go to Pittsburgh this year. So that at least gives them a chance and I'm not sure if Pitt will be ranked by the final game of the season, especially because it's after Notre Dame, but it gives them a final chance to kind of have a very good win. Miami has Syracuse, which is free falling, NC State, which is solid. Both those games are at home. And then they go to Virginia Tech, which is never easy. But all those are manageable games. Virginia Tech almost did trip up Miami last year, if you remember the controversial Hail Mary that happened. So, yeah, I do think that is on the table for the ACC, but they would kind of need, I think, that thread the needle scenario, Dan, where it is Georgia Tech versus Virginia in the title game. One of them wins, and then Miami slides in the back door with winning 4 straight to close the season, and then they need some traffic to move in front of them.
How about the Big 12? Now we got the big matchup this week. Everyone's going to be excited, but do these guys cannibalize themselves? Texas Tech already has a loss. BYU does not.
Yeah, so obviously it'd be pretty imperative for Tech to for Tech to win that game, and then you're looking at the Big 12, and what it would come down to there is what the title game matchup ends up being. Is there does 2-loss Texas Tech end up outside the title game, and then they would probably have the best resume to kind of make it under that consideration. But I think it's because of the lack of a marquee non-conference win there for both of them. I would say that gets tricky, and Utah can still go roll and win, and Utah has some good brand resonance, right? I mean, their losses are a blowout at home to Texas Tech, and then obviously they lost that slobber knocker to BYU on the road. They finish at Baylor, K-State at home, at Kansas, so they don't exactly have any statements left. But yeah, they could float in. There are still chances for both. I would give the ACC a better chance.
Yeah, no, your Pitt part is excellent. They have not lost since they went with Mason Heinzel, the freshman quarterback.
Heischel, yeah,
but they do finish.
He's excellent, Dan.
7-2. They have losses to WVU and Louisville. But they finished with Notre Dame at Georgia Tech, Miami. So they're going to be Pitt is going to be a decider here. They can still make a run to the a lot can happen with them. okay, the other one to me is the Big Ten. Now, obviously, we got 1 and 2, and they could be 1 and 2 at the end. And then you have Oregon, but can they get 4? And I talked, I think last week about how the Big Ten schedule's just been less than thrilling. It's just been dominated by a couple teams. Penn State falling apart took a lot of marquee games away. I mean, it was an exciting scene Saturday as Ohio State pulled away. Penn State kept it close at half, but I never really thought Ohio State was going to lose that game.
No, I give credit to Ohio State because they invited them back in late second half with that fumble, and they just didn't flinch, man. They just marched right down the field, start second, and I was just like, okay, that was like, that's college football is so predicated on emotion, and you go into halftime, you lose the momentum, and they just they're like a Death Star, man. They just marched down the field a couple times and didn't. Well,
they gave up their first defense. They gave up their first touchdown in the first half. And it was like, oh my goodness, what what happened?
Sky's falling.
Stunning. We gave up a touchdown. Now they're just so good. And so, you have that, but it has not been exciting. But I think there's an angle here that it's going to get really interesting. The USC Nebraska game Saturday night was good. USC finally gets a big road win, which we have not seen a lot out of the program of late. Oregon looks like a playoff team, but this is their November at Iowa. Never easy. Minnesota, who is Jekyll and Hyde. They get USC at home, then they're at Washington. So there's going to be a lot of Oregon has got to decide out. And then Iowa has Oregon at home. They go at USC, then they get Michigan State to get a Nebraska. And USC has Northwestern on Friday. They get Iowa at home at Oregon, UCLA. So there's like a little swing with Iowa, Oregon, and USC that all could they could blow each other's season up. USC could still make a run into this. Iowa could still make a run into this. And I think all of that is going to be I think November is really interesting in that part of the Big Ten. And as a Big Ten fan, I'm thankful that there's something to watch when we're not just sitting around waiting for Indiana and Ohio State to play in Indianapolis, pretty much.
Yes. And I think this is one of the great things about the playoff, Dan, is that Iowa has had a pretty good season. They're not in the AP top 25. They're the next one receiving votes. And there's a path there. You know what I mean? You have hope. When you trudge into Kinnick on Saturday in your overcoat, drinking your Busch Light, you're like, hey, man, we can go to the play. Like that, there's some power to that. And they, to me, epitomize the kind of this new era. And Oregon's been such a fascinating team because they are loaded with talent, but they have young talent, and they have shown these bits of dominance. They've shown a little bit of self-destruction. They've just kind of done a lot of things that young teams do. And Kinnick is one of the hardest places to play in the country, period. The environment there combined with the way Iowa plays has taken teams out of sorts for decades under Kirk Ferentz. So it will be interesting to see how Oregon responds to that environment.
Oh, yeah. Expected to be maybe a little rain, low of 32, high of 52 on Saturday. Classic November Iowa weather. You're going to have to bring it.
Sure, clear blue sky, right? Clear blue sky.
Then you have the case of Michigan, who very likely will wind up 9-2 going into Ohio State. And I don't think I'll risk the wrath of any Michigan fan. Do any of them think they're that good? They're just winning. Got to give them that. Yeah. But this does not look like an impressive team. They still have a path to win the Big Ten title. They could, they only have one league loss to SC. They didn't look good. They lost to Oklahoma. Didn't look good. They're just scuffling along here. But they have this sort of mental advantage, I guess, over Ohio State. Note to Ryan Day: throw the ball. Do not try to out tough Michigan. Please just throw it to Jeremiah Smith. If you're a Buckeye fan, I think you just Carnell Tate, just throw the ball a million times. I think they did that against Penn State. But you have this path, and I don't know if anyone thinks they're any good, but they've got a clear path to the title. They just have to beat Ohio State for the 5th straight year. But that part's kind kind of weird because I don't know anyone that would say. I'll see what Michigan gets ranked, but I don't know anyone to say, "Oh, Michigan."
Yeah, Justice Haynes is hurt too, Dan.
Absolutely,
and I think that
does not help.
That's obviously a huge factor because he really is their offense. Right?
They got to run the ball.
Bryce Underwood's been
Underwood has not gotten better this season. I thought he would have he has a ton of potential, and I saw it early. I was like, okay, you get later in the season, this kid's going to be true freshman. He's going to be pretty good. He has not gotten much better. So
no. And they don't really have great weapons on the outside. So they're a very flawed team. I think there's a very good chance they could lose one of these two road games because they've just been up and down. I mean, Purdue had them like in the sights anyway on Saturday night, right? That was certainly, I think a lot of people found their way over to big BTN for a little bit, right? To just sort of be like, what's happening? What's happening here? Now, credit to Sharon Moore. Like, I don't think he has the best cards right now, and he's figured out ways to win. And that's what coaching in modern college football is about. But yeah, it will be back-to-back road games will be very interesting for them. I give Northwestern a lot of credit. They've kind of righted the ship there. They presented themselves as a tough out, if nothing else. Oregon won plenty comfortable there, but that was a game in the third quarter when they went to Northwestern to their little what is it, the waste management stadium that they have over there on the lake as they build their new stadium. And look, it'll be interesting when Michigan goes to Maryland because Malik Washington has probably been a better quarterback. He might not be a better prospect, but this year he probably plays quarterback better than Bryce Underwood. So Maryland's kind of in a bit of a spiral right now, but that's the kind of game. I mean, USC went and lost there last year. Like that's the kind of game that they have enough talent where they could keep it close.
So the November gets a little more interest for the Big Ten, but mainly on that little 3-game swing out there. But you're right, Sharon Moore is winning, and that is what Hugh Freeze was not doing.
Correct.
Fourth time in the last 6 weeks, an SEC coach got on Sunday. Freeze 15-19 at Auburn, 6-16 in the SEC. Lost 10-3 to Kentucky in a game that you best at home. I won't call it ugly. I'll say it has a good personality. I'm a nice person, Pete. Freeze.
Did you see some of the crowd shots in that game?
It was tough. I mean, it was an ugly game. And then the crowd leaving. I mean, he had some tough early losses this year, tough officiating in Oklahoma. But at the end of the day, you got to win. And they didn't. He didn't. He couldn't replicate what he did at Ole Miss. He could not get a quarterback. Could not get good quarterback play. Not what I thought would do Hugh Freeze. Criticized for golfing too much. He can golf now.
Remember Lane Kiffin said he was getting his sign stolen?
Oh, what? Hugh Freeze was? Yeah. Yes. Well, they had 3 signs. I think that might have been. He had 3 game callers, but Hugh Freeze was. What was it? Ole Miss stole all their signs.
So no, Lane Kiffin said that he thought Oklahoma was stealing.
Oh, right.
So going into Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Lane said, like, I couldn't believe the safety jumped. It was like an in-route or something very Auburn. Specific. And yes, and it was a way to throw shade. He was like, I called Hugh, but it was a way to throw shade at Venables, and kind of it started that storyline. God bless you, Lane Kiffin. Always
yes, that the whole sign stealing.
Yes, but it did like speak a little bit to the notion that you would hear on the SEC this year, Dan, that the Auburn offense, which under Bo Wallace at Ole Miss was innovative and, like just devastating, had kind of not evolved and it gotten a little bit stale. And they, teams were dialed in on Auburn this year, and they just didn't, they just weren't able to do. They just weren't able to get anything going in 3 years there.
Yeah, nothing on offense. So he looked exhausted on Saturday night. He looked resigned at the end in the press conference. I'll give him credit. He walked that green mile with his head up, man. He asked for patience, but said, I know that you don't get it. wasn't claiming that fans are spoiled. Gets a $15 million buyout. So should be a good week at the grill room of the Moores Mill Country Club. I mean,
No offset or
mitigation. So it's going to be a good party, even if maybe he doesn't turn it up the way we know Hugh sometimes has in the past. It's pretty good. I think he will head off to his country club and hopefully enjoy the rest of the fall.
And hope he gets healthy too.
Yeah, he's dealing with some health issues.
Cancer.
It just didn't work. It just didn't work. And he got talent there. And that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's a good looking roster. Like it's a little like Florida under Napier when the teams who played him were like, no, they've got real guys. Keldrick Falk, the D end, will be a high pick. Cam Coleman's one of the most eye popping receivers in the country. I mean, they've got good players, but they never really found a quarterback. I mean, he made the switch to Ashton Daniels, and that didn't seem to be much of an improvement.
No. So this is the intriguing part of the Auburn job. People will say, look, it's not Florida. It's for ranking jobs. It's not Penn State. It's not Florida. It's not LSU, even with a crazy governor who's running the show. But it's a heck of you can get great players there. They've won national championships. The fans are.
You've been to a game there, Dan.
It's fantastic.
It's awesome. It is electric. They care. It is visceral.
Beautiful.
It is, to me, the epitome of the SEC experience.
Little town. Anyone looking for an SEC road trip, I always tell them Auburn is great. Hard to get a room there, but it's once you're there, you're going to love it. There's no reason. So I know it's not Florida. I know it's not LSU, but can they get John Summerall, Alabama native, one down at Troy? Is he their number one guy? Seems to be the obvious pick, or do they get somewhere else? Like, how, I still think they should get a very, very good coach there.
Yeah. Places tend to hire opposites, Dan, right? So you start with Summerall because you mentioned him. He will bring, he's defense, right? Not offense. He'd bring energy, connection. And I think that place needs a bit of the program and the fan base needs a little bit of a lightning bolt. And Summerall has that kind of that magnetic personality. I would think Ryan Silverfield, obviously at Memphis, has, the best resume of any coach in the group of five, has really done what you need to do in modern college football, which is just figure out how to build a roster every year through significant turnover. He's won really consistently. And then you have to kind of be Southern to coach at Auburn. Does that make sense? Like, it's not a place that's gonna look well on outsiders. So it'd be interesting to see where they go. Golish and Chesney are both obviously very good names. Chesney's name's picked up a lot of steam at James Madison in recent weeks. But it's fascinating, man, because Lashley's off the board. He would have been an obvious Auburn name. Drinkwitz was a GA there. He's going to be right at the forefront of that conversation with John. So really ahead of John because he's obviously an established SEC coach. So it's a fascinating game of chicken right now. You got Arkansas, you have Florida, you have Auburn, and obviously you have LSU as we learned to our delight last week. So and there aren't enough great established head coaches to fill these jobs. So does John Cohen, they'd either go bold and go hire an assistant, go hire Glenn Schumann from Georgia, or Will Stein from Oregon, or one of the Brian Hartline from Ohio State, one of these guys on the that's on the board right now. Colin Klein at A&M, for example. Like those are kind of part of the crop. I'm sure leaving a few out that are that would be in that conversation, but someone in many schools, Dan, I think at this point aren't going to get they're going to go to the press conference a little bit like, this probably isn't where we thought we'd end up, but we're going to sell it.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you think there's three head coaches that have won active head coaches right now that have won a national championship. Yeah. Ryan Day, Dabo Sweeney, and Kirby Smart. None of them were head coaches until they got the job they're in and won the national title at.
It's a great point. Saban said that on game day at Utah, where Kyle Whittingham, who's a top 10 coach in the sport, was also.
Yep. And Marcus Freeman, who played for the title last year.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
Yeah, everybody wants this head coach, this, that. It's like, I've been waiting for Michigan State to hire Brian Hartline for like 3 years. I don't know why they didn't hire him before. Now he's maybe that guy as he's calling plays or whatever. But, every once in a while, these assistants come along and they're so dynamic. You know, Ohio State is a great place to recruit to, but all of a sudden you get all the good wide receivers, and you have a wide receiver, like, you know, kind of your eyes pop up. You say, well, what about this? But, you know, you sit there, well, we got to have a guy with some head coaching experience. I don't know that you do, you know, and especially if you're willing, you know, the way Notre Dame kind of was let, all right, Marcus Freeman had a couple coaching wobbles early or whatever, but it's there. SEC story we got to get to here. Did you see Oklahoma kicker Tate Sandell, Pete? He had 4 field goals. If you didn't see his outfit, just type it into your computer right now. Anyone can type it in. Not safe for work necessarily. He had 4 field goals on Saturday night.
Is this the part of the pod where Reese is in here? So you feel?
I think I can get away with it, but I'm going to quote Herb Street. Yeah, we're going to Reese in here. We're talking about this. We are going to talk about this. He had 2 55-yarders, a 51-yarder, and a 40. The kid can kick. He is absolutely fantastic kicker. However, he was wearing the shortest football pants. You can't call them pants. He was wearing shorts in the game. Not only shorts, tight shorts. So tight that Kirk Herbstreit himself, Mr. College Football, said that should be a penalty. Just dressing like that should be a penalty. Unless you're going to a nightclub or something, or you're a backup dancer, I might be.
Well, those are short. My gosh.
Yeah, he called them Daisy Dukes. Daisy Dukes. These shorts are like, these are, leave something to the imagination, Tate. Leave something to the imagination. He admitted after the game that he did not know they were that short until he saw them on TV. He said the issue was they ripped pregame and they kept falling down. So I kept pulling them up a little bit higher just to get them to stay. Does Oklahoma have a belt? Can we get him? Can we get this man? Like, this guy is a heck of a kicker. Can we get him some shorts that fit? Oh, come on, Boomer Sooner. There's only so much.
It's a bad day in the equipment office. They're like, oh, geez.
This was too much Boomer Sooner in this outfit, okay? He says, I'm not changing the no. It's working. No, don't change. You're knocking in 55-yarders. Keep going. But, Pete, should Oklahoma be disqualified from playoff contention, or should Tate just live his life, man? Tight shorts.
I just think, if Tate wants to be Greg LeMond and wears but little biker shorts, go right ahead, Tate. Right, go right ahead, man. Yeah, just keep kicking, man. The Sooners need you. The Sooners
kid
need
can
you.
Kick. The kid can
yes, he's
absolutely
great
kick.
Yes.
Go for it. Whatever. So Mario Cristobal rolling along until this SMU loss, and it is kind of goes to a pattern. It's a great stat by our old colleague Pat Forty. Mario Cristobal is 16-2 in September at Miami. He is 4-9 in November now. Carson Beck is not looking to get 9 interceptions, 14 touchdowns. They had their chances against SMU, but it didn't happen. Where are we at with the U?
Well, I think it was 12 penalties for 96 yards, including a personal foul which extended the drive on Marquise Lightfoot after he appeared to have the game-sealing sack against SMU. He was called for unnecessary roughness. Cristobal said after the game that Marquise didn't hear the whistle. And he kind of questioned the call, said not sure why it's called in such a critical situation there. And then, not surprisingly, 7 plays later, SMU tied the game with a 38-yard field goal to push it into overtime. And look, like the totality of Miami's resume, a close loss to Louisville, which they had on that Friday night, and then road league loss aren't terrible, but I think it was the way that Miami lost this game, Dan, that kind of got under people's skin a little bit. First of all, they're much better than SMU. They're much more talented than SMU. And I think the criticism of Mario Cristobal has always been two things, right? It's been the clock management and the game management, which we've seen time and again at Oregon and at Miami. And then it's that, like, no one doubts that he can recruit and collect the talent, but when is the sum going to be greater than the parts? And I think early in the season, we saw like glimpses of that. We saw it all kind of coming together. And now they are on a high wire act. If they get to the playoff, they're going to sneak in the playoff, or they need some ACC help to get in the title game and to go. But I still don't think anyone doubts the talent of Miami. It just hasn't come together.
Yeah. I get Miami fan being frustrated, but yeah, they tend to lose these close games. All right, you're not giving up on them.
Yeah,
it's still a dangerous club. I don't know what Carson Beck's all about. I don't know what Carson Beck's all about. He's got to play better. They've all got to play better. They got to coach better. But this is they're one more from people being really upset. I mean, they're spending a lot of money down there. There's a lot of excitement, and it's a little something when you're in pro markets. You just can't count on everybody just backing on the team and going with it. They are hardly alone in the ACC. You remember back in 2024, in an effort to appease Florida State and Clemson, who were suing to get out of the ACC. They were battling the ACC grant of rights, right? It was like, what is the definition of is, that kind of thing with the lawyers.
I recall. Vaguely rings a bell.
So the ACC set up the Success Initiative for them. And basically, because they always win, they were going to get more money, like $4 million for a playoff appearance. And there's some other bonuses. And the farther you go in the playoff, the more money you make. And this was going to give Florida State and Clemson that opportunity to make kind of something closer to SEC money. Yeah, they're 4-7 in the league in league play this year. 4-8, yes. I think, or 3-8. They're 3-8, or 4-8. I don't know, whatever they are. They are not doing well. Clemson is 3-5 overall. Saturday was maybe the worst. I don't know, the worst scene I've seen in Clemson in a long time. They lost to Duke. It was a wild game. Dabo was screaming on the sideline, angry with his defense. Terrible call at the end. Dabo got $10,000 fine for complaining about it. He deserved to complain about it, and maybe Clemson should have won the game. That said, they didn't, and they always used to. There was a 6-year stretch where they lost 7 games in 6 years. I think I just did a 6-7 there. I don't know. Or maybe did I? They've lost 7 of their last 11. I think they had like the big thing this year is all the kids going up high in the stands and doing the tarp off, like wave your shirt. Like it's kind of Oklahoma State. Like we're terrible. Let's go do this. I think they were doing that at Clemson on Saturday. This is not like a bad loss or two. Like we are in a tailspin.
Well, let's start with the Success Initiatives. I just called up the TV schedule for Saturday, November 8th.
Oh, this is funny.
When you take your league to court, and you battle to sort of find an avenue for greater revenue stream, you do not expect that on ESPN Prime game will be Wake Forest at Virginia. The ESPN 2 game would be Cal at Louisville. And then the ACC Network game will be Florida State at Clemson. So they basically now again, they're going to do fine revenue wise because they had a bunch of, those things are all front loaded up front. And I'm sure LSU Clemson did plenty to ratings wise to cancel this out. But they basically pushed for a risk that ultimately had them atop the league, and they are no longer atop the league. And what ails Clemson will be a huge story, and how to fix it will be a huge story going forward. There needs to be some holistic changes in Dabo Swinney. And this goes beyond like his hesitations to hit the portal, right? Like there just seems to be something missing. But ultimately, he, much like Nick Saban, much like Kirby Smart, they built, the three of them basically built super teams in the last 15 years, right? And you cannot build super teams anymore. Like you have to be more transactional. And I just don't think they've quite figured out the assistant coaching spots there. Obviously Duke scored 46 on him this week. Like Tom Allen has been just okay, right? That was the big. Let's go get Penn State's big hire, right? And that has not been great. The sum has not been greater than parts on the Clemson defense this year. I think that goes without saying. And then Garrett Riley, they obviously scored a bunch of points this week with Klubnik back, and Klubnik's actually played pretty well the last 3 games. But Klubnik's done that in the past, like played middling to start the season, and then kind of torch some bad teams going forward. So I do think staff wise, and Dabo's always been hesitant to change the staff. He's a loyal guy. A lot of the Dabo things that have held him back are rooted in that, like, he's a good sort of old school principal person. He's not like a tyrant. He wants it to be like it was, and it's not anymore. And I think that's really, that's really a big part of it. So no, it will be, his job is not in danger. There's nothing like that there. He's one of 3 guys to win a national title. They want to work with him, and they will work with him to move and evolve and fix, but it will be another, painful offseason there.
Yeah. I mean, look, the slide started and it was, Tyler and Spartanburg on the radio. And then even this year, like, I'll go somewhere else. It's the spoiled fan. We heard it from Brian Kelly. We hear it all the time. And there is an element to that. You're spoiled fan. And this is a different era of the sport where the games are more competitive. The SEC last weekend, the games were settled by a margin of victory of 6.5. Under a touchdown or an extra point, 6.5. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm saying the SEC is the greatest league and they deserve like 10. People take that as like, oh, you're saying, no, I'm not. I'm just saying it's 1-score games. You have to, you're not going to win every 1-score game. And the ACC isn't there, but it's closer. And so,
well, Duke has Darian Mensah, Dan. Think about that. They have a $3 million a year quarterback. He's better than Cade Klubnik, period. Right. And now I'm not saying Clemson should have went and got him last year. Klubnik was one of the top guys in the sport coming into the season. But like Duke didn't have Darian Mensah 5 years ago. They just didn't. And now they have the opportunity, salary cap space, and credit Manny Diaz. He went out, identified him, swooped in, and got him in a very short order.
And so you're playing against guys that when was the last time Duke had the better quarterback than Clemson?
It's the sandwich. The top isn't as good, and the bottom has risen up, and that's where your margins are thinner, and that's why a call can mean so much in that.
It's never been an issue against Duke, and so, but this is no longer spoiled fans. At some point, I mean, you're 3-5. You're just not good. You're not winning, and so how much can Dabo change? He's got to change a lot.
Yeah.
The era that he used to run doesn't matter anymore. And it's not that you can't have great relationships with your players. You actually need to have great relationship with your players so they don't leave. But you've got to, I don't know what the secret sauce is, but a lot of other coaches have adapted to figure it out. And he's going to have to do that because this is not going in any direction. And I don't know. Do you think he can do that?
Yes, because the great coaches evolve, and Dabo Swinney's he's a Hall of Fame football coach, right? And you have to evolve. You can't do the same thing. Nick Saban famously evolved. He went tempo on offense. All these guys need to evolve and change. And this has been a pretty long inflection point for Dabo to look at that and, begin to evolve and begin to change.
Yeah. Him screaming, it used to be bring your own guts game. And he had that kind of team, right? That was his phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And then
BYOG,
Saturday, it looked like he was screaming for someone to get the guts going. He just didn't. It was a different look. It was they've lost a lot lately, but it didn't quite look like that. All right, let's finish up on this. Abilene Christian defeated Tarleton State. I'm sorry, Tarleton State.
Yeah.
Saturday, 31-28, last second field goal, 47-yard field goal by Brandon Perez. Big game in FCS. Tarleton State was
Tarleton beat Army this year.
They're good. They were number 2. Abilene Christian in celebration sent out a tweet. They sent out a tweet that said basically said Tarleton isn't a state. Okay.
Tarleton isn't a state.
Yes. Isn't a state. That was what they said. And then they took it down and posted this. Many of you saw a post after ACU's football win over Tarleton State. The post was not only unprofessional, it was inconsistent with the values of ACU. The content has been removed because it fell short of our standards. We apologize to anyone who may have been hurt or offended. Our standards are higher than what was conveyed in the post, and we will ensure you experience that moving forward. Who was offended? We apologize
to all people who think Tarleton was a state.
Tarleton is not a state.
It wasn't one of the 50 I was taught.
No. What in the name of West Texas is going on? You're offended by that?
Yeah, there's like 20 more offensive, like "we beat you" posts that go up every week. Yeah,
yeah. So should we free the intern? Who put?
Yeah,
come on, ACU. I appreciate your sensitivity to your opponent, but that is not offensive. This is college football.
Yeah. Yeah, and they are not a state.
Factual also. Factual also.
Yes.
So of all the things that were on social media this weekend, just know one guy, some man or woman out there in Abilene had a tough Saturday night. Yes. Worried about the job. So we want to stand with you. Do not fire this person.
Yeah, no, that was not that bad. Yeah, in fact, by taking it down, you drew 97 times more attention to it. So the middle manager in the athletic department that made that decision, that was the wrong decision, because we would not have noticed before. But now
we're talking about it. So. Yeah. So let's get a little tougher out there. Come on, let's shape up, tighten things up out there in West Texas. All right, we now we'll go to our guest. We have Kenny Chesney coming up. Really fun interview. It was great. Yeah.
He was awesome, man. What a great guy.
Right, here it is. All right, we want to welcome Kenny Chesney to the show. 33 number one hits, 30 million albums sold, 12 country music awards, 4-time entertainer of the year. Other than that, not much. No, the pride of Utrell, Tennessee, East Tennessee State University has a new book out, Heart, Life, Music. I read it. It is very fun, Kenny. Fantastic. It's kind of part memoir, part just a string of stories about writing songs, singing songs, and a journey in career music that runs from Cedar Ford Baptist Church to Chucky's Trading Post in Johnson City, Tennessee, and in 2026, The Sphere in Vegas. But before we get to the music, you are a Tennessee Vol fan and a big one.
Sure. Thoughts
right now on the state of the Vols? Took a tough loss Saturday to Oklahoma. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a tough loss Saturday. I haven't been back home in a while, but I would imagine that morale is low on Rocky Top right now. But who knows? Who knows how the season is going to play out? But yeah, I grew up on it. Where I grew up, you get 10 miles outside of Knoxville and you're in the country, and so we leaned on school, sports, church, and family, and Tennessee football. And that's just the way it was. And it's the way it still is, really. And we didn't have a pro allegiance to anything. If I wanted to go to see a baseball game, we had to go to Atlanta or Cincinnati, so Tennessee football was all we had.
Kenny, growing up when you're in your formative years, college football players, especially in a rural area like you grew up, seemed larger than life.
Yes.
Who were the Vols who you idolized and grew up thinking were just like the biggest stars on the stage and you wanted to emulate?
My earliest memory was a guy named Condridge Holloway, who later on in my life I would make a film about for ESPN. It's called The Color Orange. It was one of the 30 for 30 things. 30 for 30. But he was the first black quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. Okay. And he was my first one. And you're right. Like, these guys are like gods to us, because we didn't have, all these, any pro players. So we had this, these guys were mythic. They were just the lure of Tennessee football was so big. So that we had Condridge Holloway. There was Willie Gault. There was, and one of the reasons that I love the Patriots today is because the Patriots drafted a guy named Stanley Morgan, who I loved. He was one of my favorite players. So that's where it all started. But those guys, I would go with my father. I was a child, and we would listen to the guy that did play-by-play for Tennessee. His name was John Ward. And John painted all these pictures in our brain, about how awesome Tennessee football was. And we got to see the game, his voice was our eyes, and it was awesome. The first time, though, I was 9, and I walked into Neyland Stadium with my father, and I connected the dots visually with what John Ward was telling me all these years, right? And Tennessee played Notre Dame. I think the running back, his name was Hubert Simpson, and Hubert went crazy, and Tennessee beat Notre Dame, I think. But it was my first experience inside Neyland Stadium, and it was, like you said, it was bigger than life, and those players were bigger than life.
Yeah, to see a stadium that big too. The thing about Neyland is always impressive. Stanley Motor Morgan, love that guy when he was
Stanley was great. I mean, he's one of my favorite. Him and Conrad Holloway and Willie Galt, and there was a receiver named Larry Sievers that I loved. There was, I can go on and on.
All right. Well, I want to ask you about the music a little bit. Okay. You are a songwriter beyond just being the singer. You've written number one hits as a songwriter, co-written a bunch. You sing other people's songs as well. You've sold some of your songs to other people, but I think at heart you're a writer. And I wanted to ask you this, if it's possible. When you get up to sing, you've got hours of material to put into a show. What is the best lyric that you have at your disposal when you are going to sing? What do you think the best lyric you either sing, write, or co-wrote or whatever you ever have?
That's a great question.
I have a choice if you want to think.
No, I think there was a song that I had, and look, it wasn't a part of my life at all. I still don't have kids, but I had a song called "There Goes My Life" about a father and daughter relationship. To this day, that's one of my favorite lyrics that I sing, and I don't do it every night. But I'm just the interpreter of that emotion and that song. It's not a song that is part of my life at all. But a lot of people in my life, it is their life, that song. So that would be one. Boys of Fall on a sports level would be a lyric that taps straight into the heart of how I grew up. Like I said earlier, I grew up in a place where we leaned on sports as a community. And Boys of Fall, I mean, it painted the exact picture of what it was like for me and for a lot of people.
Real quick, that was I could prove it to you, but "There Goes My Life" was my answer. And it was this part. The song's basically a kid in high school and his girlfriend. They have a child. They got everything. There goes his life. But then by the end, he's seeing his daughter move away. A couple years up all night, a few thousand diapers later, the mistakes he thought he made covers up the refrigerator. I think that's your best line. Is that the best line in the song?
Yeah, I agree. And it's
that's a damn good line.
When that song came out, it was well before social media. It was well before we had all these devices in our hands and everything. And before our big tour, before we would go and play arenas and wherever we would play, we would go to these college bars and announce the show that morning. We would just so the band could get our chops back and for the fun of it, actually. And that song was out, and all of a sudden I see all these girls on their phones. And because they didn't have the capability to record you at that time. And I was going to, when the song was over, I said, "What are you guys doing?" And almost they all told me, I mean, we're playing a club that's got like 400 people in it, that's it. But all the girls said, "We're on the phone with our father." And that told me that we struck a nerve with that one.
Yeah. Dan's got 2 daughters. I have one, so that would resonate. I kind of think that's why Dan might have asked. That.
Great question.
Yeah. So you're obviously as accomplished of a writer there is. the process of writing a book. I was curious about Holly Gleason, obviously a really established rock and roll journalist. Yes. How does that go? Like, I mean, this is probably a little bit of an indulgent question for two writers, right? But how do you, who write so much, collab with Holly, and how did walk us through a little bit of that process? That'd be pretty interesting.
Well, I learned a lot because, when you're writing music and you're writing a song, you're focused on one emotion, you're focused on one thing to try to find commonality with somebody. It's a lot like looking through a straw, right? And you can't look outside that straw. Writing a book, it was more like a fisheye lens on a camera, and Holly and I sat down, it was about 1 year and 3 months ago for the first time. And okay. I had no idea what this book was going to be. I knew I didn't want it to be a true memoir. I just wanted it. I wanted it to be postcards from my soul and vignettes of my journey, and that journey's been really, I thank God every day that this dream has been really big. So there was a lot of sports in it. There's a lot of family in it. There's a lot of being on stage in it, and the people that I met because of all those things, right? So I got to talk about that, and you can't talk about that in songs, I mean, when I did Boys of Fall, that took me on a completely different journey in my life, and in a time where I felt, I wouldn't say burnt out, but I was a little bit numb to it all. I mean, and that's not a good headspace to be in when you're trying to create music. And so when we did Boys of Fall, the guy at ESPN at the time, his name was John Walsh. And I came and played John Walsh a 3-hour rough cut of the film. And I could see him over there writing down, and he goes, "You need to go talk to this person, this person, this person." So it set me, it sparked this creative energy inside of me that I didn't see coming. And so the whole Boys of Fall process, next thing you know, I'm in Bill Parcells' living room. I'm in Nick Saban's living room. I'm in John Madden's big warehouse he had out there in Oakland. And I'm with these people that mean a lot to the game of football. And I'm hearing their stories, and it fed me in a way that nothing else would have or could have. And then the next thing you know, I'm back. I felt like I was ready to go again. And so I never saw that coming. The reason I was talking about that is writing this book allowed me to talk about those things, right? And you can't do that when you're creating music and you're looking through a straw.
Can I make a joke here?
Sure.
Nick Saban has a line about looking through a straw. He said, there's an old football thing that O-line coaches don't become great head coaches, or rarely become great head coaches. And Nick always says, it's because they see a game through the straw.
All right. Well, that's great.
I just thought of it. So anyway, Dan, go ahead. Continue the interview.
No, so Kenny, I don't know if you drink anymore. You certainly drink less, I believe, but you definitely write about drinking a lot.
Well,
sing about your.
Yes. And that was very authentic at the time, and
okay.
Look, I get this from my family. We work really hard. We play really hard. We love really hard. We are passionate about sports, family, and everything. And usually, that started in college. And when I went on the road, we had a lot of fun. We really did.
Okay,
we still have fun, but it's different fun now. I had to make a decision. Am I going to act like I used to act and still be really good at what I do, or not? Because I couldn't all of a sudden in my life do both. And I realized one night lying in my bunk, I went, wow, I've given so much of my life, all of my life, to being this person. So the choice was pretty easy to change my life a little bit, because I don't want people to I want them to not only get all of me, I want them to get the best of me. And so the decision was pretty easy.
So I think you got that from watching Springsteen and working with Springsteen was an interesting part of the book. But you sang through the years about rum, Malibu and Diet, Foxy's Firewater, Blue Chair, tequila, margaritas, red wine, strawberry wine.
Oh, no question.
2 wine and 2 Dixie cups, Jack, beer with my friends, beer in Mexico. So look at Pete and I still drink. If it's last night, if it's like death row, one of us is on death row, we all go to a bar. You spend the night at a bar with us, which you got to have something better to do than that. But if we're drinking one thing, if you have one recommendation, this is Kenny Chesney's recommendation. What should we drink?
Well, this is not just a shameless plug for my rum company, but I'm going to say you should probably drink Blue Chair Bay rum mix. I mean, it depends on how hard you want to go. But I would, my go-to boat drink, okay, when I'm on a boat, and it's really almost next to impossible to get on a boat in the Virgin Islands and not want to have a cocktail. That's just the way it is. So it'd be Blue Chair Bay, coconut rum, and a sugar-free Red Bull. That's what I'd tell you to drink.
All right.
That's what I really want to know.
We were lucky to have you a couple weeks ago, Kenny. You have a pretty long history with College Game Day. This is a College Game Day podcast. I know you've been the guest picker. I want to say multiple times. I think
I've done it 4 times.
4 times. Okay. I knew it was a handful of times. Do you have a favorite memory? Maybe Coach Corso, maybe a scene that was like particularly cool. That's got to be almost a record for a guest picker.
Well, maybe so. I don't know. Like Kirk and I have been friends a long time.
Sure.
And I think I was on Game Day, Tennessee, Florida years ago in Knoxville, and that was fun.
Yep.
But I love Coach Spurrier. I love him. Me and a guy named Sean Silva did a film on him for ESPN also. So I got to know Coach Spurrier very well. And I did Game Day there, and they had a whole thing set up, and me and Coach talked, and I sang American Kids before on stage. And Coach Spurrier, he's such a unique character. And we played South Carolina's football stadium one year, and Coach came over the night before, and I said, well, it was close to football season. I said, how you guys going to look? How are you guys this year? He goes, well, Kenny, we look good in our uniforms. That's all he said.
All right. Well, the book is Heart, Life, Music. I read it. It's tremendous. I could go on for hours, but you can read the book. He's got all his stories in there, and highly recommend it. Kenny Chesney, thank you for joining the ESPN
thanks those are great
Game
questions.
Day
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. We'll drink your rum.
All right.
Don't worry. Yeah. So that was cool. Yeah.
What a thrill. Right.
You want to talk to Kenny Chesney for 10 minutes? I had to.
Super relatable, very just what.
Well, it's like his whole thing, right? It's the whole vibe of the fans.
Yeah.
They tour. He did the stadium tours all the time, and the parties, and it's the closest thing to a football game and a football. I didn't get a chance to ask him. He has this tradition he mentions in the book where he goes to the last row of every stadium when he rents out these massive, basically NFL stadiums. He sits in the last row, farthest from the stage, and sits there for 10 minutes and tries to think about how he can connect on the other end to that fan. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Wow. That's really cool. He also said he went to the Patriots game on Saturday, Dan. So he was clearly after our Boston.
He was.
So I know. He and Robert Kraft are tight. He's played Gillette a million times.
He's got the Boston song. He only plays up there. He's got a lot. He's a very cool guy. Book is really good. So I do recommend that. You guys can read. I think some of you can. This is college football. You can read. I don't think anyone reads a book in college anyway. Well, that's it anyway. So maybe next time you'll get Reese, and so the show will be better organized and more pronunciations will be correct. Apologies to everyone I butchered. But thank you for listening to the College Game Day podcast. Please download the podcast wherever you prefer to get your podcast, or better yet, subscribe so you never miss a single episode.